the next decade will be crucial. ENGIE will be here each step of the way. We have already worked on multiple renewables and energy projects across the region, split across 3 main growth verticals: industry, real estate, and data centers. In Southeast Asia alone, ENGIE has accumulated CO2 annual savings of 420,000 tons.
We see an opportunity to do what's right, to change business as usual, to become business as it should be, where people don't just live and work, they thrive. To do that, Colliers is committing to elevate the way we do business, to elevate the built environment. We will minimize environmental impacts in our own operations and through the services we provide our clients. We will increase diversity and inclusion in Colliers and across our procurement practices to create an atmosphere welcoming of diverse ideas and perspectives. We will promote health and well-being in our operations and through our client services to help improve lives. Together, we will elevate the built environment and build better for our collective future. For ourselves, for our clients, for our communities, for the world.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be back face to face. Thank you so much, Ms. Maricel, for having us. We're very happy to have everyone face to face. So, again, thank you so much for coming to our event today, the E and ESG Embracing Well the Leading Edge. This event is in partnership with Colliers Philippines and Filinvest REIT Corporation. I am Maria Crisarino Hoson, Colliers Director and Head of Office Services, Landlord Representation. I will be your host and moderator today. We're very excited about this event. We have invited experts from Colliers Asia Pacific, the Filinvest Group, ENGIE Southeast Asia, and Meralco to share best practices, discuss current trends, and offer recommendations for a more sustainable, impactful, and exceptional real estate sector. But before we go into that, let us first acknowledge our partners who made this event possible: Filinvest REIT Corporation, BusinessWorld, the British Chamber of Commerce Philippines, and ENGIE Southeast Asia. And to our more than 300 attendees on Zoom, we will have a lively panel discussion at the end of the presentation. Please do not hesitate to send in your questions through the Q&A box. For participants here in the beautiful Filinvest Three, Tower 3 in Alabang City, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask any of our Colliers team members for the microphones. And to formally open our event today, may we call on the force behind Filinvest REIT Corporation, the company's Director, President, and Chief Operations Officer. Prior to her appointment of PhilREIT, she has held various leadership positions at the Filinvest Group, including Executive Vice President, Chief Operating Officer, Senior Vice President for Offices, and Vice President and Project Group Head of Filinvest Alabang. It is my pleasure to formally introduce to you this trailblazing female leader in Philippine real estate, an apt culmination of the National Women's Month. Please welcome Ms. Maricel Brion Lirio.
Thank you so much, Marie Chris, for such a beautiful introduction. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to our webinar entitled Embracing Well the Leading Edge here in Filinvest REIT office building in Northgate Cyberzone. As we all know, ESG, or the environmental, social, and governance criteria, have become increasingly important in the business world, and companies are striving to become more sustainable and responsible in their operations. The webinar will focus on the topic of sustainable buildings and the certification systems that are used to evaluate their environmental performance. We will be specifically discussing the WELL Building Standard and the LEED certification, which are two of the most widely recognized and respected systems in the industry. Our esteemed panel of speakers will provide valuable insights into benefits of sustainable buildings, the criteria and requirements for certification, and the challenges and opportunities associated with achieving and maintaining these standards. We will also be showcasing the Filinvest REIT offices in Northgate Cyberzone, a prime example of a sustainable building and eco-friendly community that has been certified under both the WELL and LEED standards. This development is a testament to a commitment of Filinvest to sustainability and environmental responsibility. So I encourage all of you to actively participate in the webinar, ask questions, and share your own experiences and insights. I hope that this webinar will serve as a valuable platform for learning and sharing knowledge and inspire all of us to embrace sustainability and environmental responsibility in our own organizations. Once again, welcome to the webinar of Embracing Well the Leading Edge by Filinvest REIT in cooperation by Colliers International. So let's make this an engaging and informative session. Thank you and mabuhay.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maricel. So with that, let's begin our presentation. They say that ESG has evolved to having more than just good intentions. For many enterprises, it has become a must-have, something that looks good, feels good, and most importantly, does good in sustaining significant outcomes that reflect not just on balance sheets, but also on the communities which they operate in. And we are very fortunate that a growing number of players in the property sector are walking the talk, leading the charge in incorporating sustainability targets to their respective corporate strategy. I should say that this is an apt move because we know that building and construction industries account for about 36% of final energy use and 39% of energy and process-related carbon dioxide emission. So how are business adapting to a more ESG-focused world? A world where success is no longer measured by financials alone. How do they put ESG at the very heart of their operation? What are the available technologies available that will help us achieve our ESG goals? We have invited experts from the property advisory, energy, and real estate development sectors to shed light on these topics. Later in the program, let's ask them to make a really good case on why the future of a built environment is ESG-centric. So let's get down to business. Our first speaker is Andrew Lau, Director of Colliers ESG Advisory Asia. Andrew is a professional engineer with extensive experience in business development, product marketing, and has over 18 years of experience in ESG advisory, including developing and managing net zero carbon programs, energy management, retro-commissioning, green and well building, performance contracting, renewable energy, and waste management program. To discuss Colliers ESG advisory, please welcome on Zoom Mr. Andrew Lau.
Thank you very much for the introduction and welcome everyone to today's webinar and seminar. Unfortunately, I'm not there to meet you all and looking forward to seeing you in person sooner or later. And today I'm very honored to be here sharing what we'll be doing in terms of ESG advisory service for our clients and also how ESG can bring positive value to real estate sector overall. So my sharing is around about the demand and the requirements, and also like what are the occupiers asking for. I think all of you should have experienced the global warming effect for the past few years. Particularly even during pandemic, we see there is a temperature rise in all over the world. We see flooding events, we see tsunami, typhoon, then more and more life-threatening events happening more frequently. And all the global players are urging to achieve net zero carbon as early as possible. A lot of cities and countries, they have a global commitment to achieve net zero by or before 2050. And it's no longer a myth. It is something that is become actionable and is impacting our real estate industry a lot. And Philippines overall is targeting a 75% reduction in CO2 by 2030. And as part of the strategies, it also requires all companies listed on Philippines listed must submit a sustainability report or ESG report by as of today this year. So I guess everyone are already very busy to do that. And ESG cover not just the environmental pieces and also the S and G part. And we are going to talk about that today. So I think this is a mission. We are trying to reduce our business activities negative impact towards the environment and the society. And one key contributors is about the greenhouse gas emissions. And in driving a carbon zero or net zero roadmap, we are looking into all three scope of carbon emissions. So that's include the direct emission, which is a scope 1, whereas part of our burning the fossil fuel from our company vehicles or burning fuels on site in our facilities. So those are scope 1. Scope 2 is our purchase electricity or thermal energy. So in Philippines, I think most of them come from the electricity, which we spend in the buildings or within office environment. And more important, I think everyone right now is looking to the scope 3 emissions, which is come from the whole supply chain. So it can be the upstream activity, such as the landlord consumption, all the way to downstream activity from the supply chain, like the paper that we use, the waste that we produced, and the product that we created. All that contribute to the overall greenhouse gas emissions. The reason why I say it is important, because I think for scope 1 and scope 2, we have been checking that for a number of years. From my experience in Philippines, actually the scope 1 and scope 2 emissions are pretty well controlled. There's a lot of professional in the markets that's helped you to reduce energy from time to time. But what about scope 3? My experience told me that scope 3 emission is hard to quantify in the first place, let alone to reduce it. But it is our mission to help the clients to identify what is within the scope 3 emission and identify the opportunity to reduce accordingly. So it is something that is still I think it's a gray area. A lot of debate between the boundary conditions, which parts should be calculated or accounted for the scope 3 emission. But I think the bottom line is we have to embrace the challenge. The scope 3 emission will drive the whole economic, drive the supplier, the whole supply chain to decarbonize their own productions as well as their operations. So this is, I think it's very important for real estate to recognize that. From a landlord perspective, your scope 1 and scope 2 is someone else scope 3. Or the other way around, your scope 3 emission is someone else scope 1 and scope 2. So how we can incentivize our tenants to drive down their emission is also part of the mission from the landlords. So why ESG suddenly become a hot topic? I think from my actually close to 20 years of experience now, I've seen through the change and the journey for ESG. It started in the very beginning where we talk about the corporate social responsibility, how we can contribute back to the society from a corporate perspective. And then it become a corporate sustainability topic where we can utilize the sustainability angle to make profits. And right now, ESG has become a risk matrix for lots of investors to evaluate the profitability and the durability, sustainability of their investments. Real estate as a very important investment tools actually play an important role in it. How is our building become climate resilient? How is our building or real estate asset has ESG program in place so that to attract the multinational tenants and also fulfilling the corporate requirements and the publicly committed target for a lot of players. So all this combined has become nowadays ESG. So what we all embracing this ESG challenge because we want to mitigate the risk from non-compliance. We mentioned about by this year, all the listed company in Philippines have to produce a sustainability report. So ESG has become part of the reporting. There is increased productivity through green and well-being certification. I think WELL certification in particular is super important for a corporate operations to increase the productivity from all their stakeholders, from their own people, employees, to the supplier, visitors, and their clients. So all the corporates are driving a well-being, a very wellness-driven workplace to make sure that they can attract the right talent, at the same time to attract the right clients. So increased productivity is becoming key, and boost the profit margin through utility savings, as well as the productivity gain from the angle of ESG. Assess the preference green finance opportunity. This is also one of the key topics nowadays. We all know that cost of money is going up with the increase in interest rate. And that's why green finance has become very attractive. 10 years before, when I started to drive this green finance topic, a lot of banks, they think, oh, actually your project is too small that we can finance. Or the client eventually come to me and say, Andrew, you know what? Our cost of finance is even lower than what you can offer with a green finance. But nowadays, I think the whole game has changed. Utilizing green finance allow us to achieve the carbon reduction target with immediate effect. At the same time, we allow the project itself to pay back the investment we need to make to drive decarbonize. So on one hand, it achieves the target. On the other hand, it reduces the CapEx burden of a company, also achieving positive cash flow. I think this is very important. And last but not least, I think attract and retain the right talent is the reason why ESG becomes so important for all the corporates to embrace. In the system, LEED and WELL certification, which is one of the topic we want to focus today, they are completely different angle. Both of them come from the USGBC. One, on the LEED certification, is about the facilities, on the hardware itself, how green is the facilities, the buildings, and impacts to the environment. It talks about the energy efficiency, the waste management, how to do like green purchase, green procurement, how to monitor and manage all the performance from utility angle, and also from a green cleaning angle as well. On the other hand, for WELL certification, even though it's also come from USGBC, it started and created by half technical people and half medical people. So it's all about the people and the stakeholder within the workplace or the built environment. How does the facilities impacting their own health and well-being? Within the WELL certification program, there's three key major factors: physical wellness, mental wellness, and the social wellness. And in the WELL certification program, it looks at 10 different elements of a building, from the comfort level all the way to the mind level and the nutrition level. So how are you going to see the facilities impacting your own stress level, while the opportunity for you to exercise, everything contribute to the WELL certification scheme? And there's a lot of questions I received in the past. How can we justify to do a WELL certification project? And I'm going to share with you how we can do that. And from a technology perspective, I think both LEED and WELL certification encourage more utilization of property technologies, or PropTech in short, to drive the efficiency improvement and health and well-being. In our Colliers' own journey, we identify opportunity from driving our office own operation with according to the LEED certification criteria, whereas we can identify immediate energy savings. And in order to pay back justify the investment is actually only 1.3 years return on investments. And we will achieve 40% savings on energy and water. So this is a huge amount of reduction in OPEX. At the same time, 1.3 years, it means something like 15 months, we are able to pay back the investments. And if you think about from a green finance perspective, if we have a building that's allowed you to have a 1.3 years return on investment, that's probably something like 70% ROI. In that case, your financial cost, which is about less than 10%, then you have a positive cash flow from day one. So this is relatively attractive from a green finance perspective. As well as from the wellness angle, achieving WELL certification allows us to improve the productivity of the employee ourselves. We manage to reduce the loss due to sick leave, loss due to turnover, and the total return on investment is 2.1 year. We achieve 50% reduction in sick leave and 25% reduction in employee turnover. And we also increase our hiring rate as well. So we apply a lot of technologies through this LEED and WELL journey, including occupancy sensors. I think all of you know all this like technologies, air quality monitoring sensors, wellness amenities, and also we do a lot of water testing, air testing from time to time. So this is important for an employer ourselves to embrace this challenge to drive the LEED and WELL certification program and the overall ESG framework within our organization. And in Colliers, we commit to achieve net zero by 2030 and also achieve the DE&I target and enhance the wellness of the environment of all our employees. We ourselves is helping our client to accelerate their program. And I think wellness is one of the things that we all talk about, particularly after the pandemic. And one of the certification, we actually call it the rating, is called WELL HSL, Health and Safety Rating. You see this in the presentation pictures. It's actually our Colliers office achieving the WELL HSL rating in 2023. And it is applicable to all landlords. It allows the visitors, occupants, the tenants to become safe, to feel the wellness of the building from a policy, cleaning, and maintenance perspective that you are doing a standard, particularly after pandemic. So this is a very transparent tool allowing the landlord to drive this journey with a minimum investment. So if we don't do it now, we are anticipating there's 5 events. One is loss of business due to non-compliance, our reputational damage to our brand or everyone brand if we don't embrace this challenge, increasing future costs due to comply and fulfill requirements in future. I think one of the angle we need to look at is an increase in utility costs from year on year. Potential health and safety issues due to the wellness angle and higher staff turnover. So these are all the challenge we see, and this is a challenge that our clients also see. So in Colliers, we are helping our clients to do carbon reduction program from an overarching strategy perspective to optimize their energy by implementing energy savings projects, resources savings from all the way from supply chain, utility, and every resources that we are using, achieving building certification and health and well-being. The most important point is we need portfolio level strategies and a robust data management. I think this is super important, particularly when we are on the journey to report our carbon emissions from day one. I would suggest everyone to start now, and also to achieve your ESG goals, you need a very solid, a robust ESG program in place. and achieving what you can do with minimum investment. I think this is super important. And if we don't embrace the challenge, I think a lot of competition will eventually catch up. And that's all I want to share today. Welcome any questions later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Very much, I think all of us here are committed to be part of the green journey, all of us taking our part to our 2030 Philippine goal of net zero. So our next speaker is from Filinvest, Mark Molingbayan, the Chief Sustainability Officer of the Filinvest Group. He is a civil and environmental engineer by profession whose work over the last 20 years expanded from sanitation, environmental work to risk and sustainability, which also cover the social, economic, and governance aspects of the business. To discuss sustainability in the Filinvest Group, please welcome Mr. Mark Molingbayan.
Thank you, Marie Chris, for that introduction. I would like to show you first how we approach sustainability from the Filinvest Group perspective, and then we will zoom in into the features of REIT, or the offices that we have here in Northgate Cypress Zone. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. Okay, before I proceed with the sustainability framework that we have, let me just introduce Filinvest to you. We have been here for over 65 years, and we have a portfolio of, it disappeared. Could you please click okay. So our biggest businesses are actually in real estate and in financial services, but we also have businesses in power and water. And we also have hospitality as well as sugar and infrastructure. Okay, so in the real estate business is actually one of the biggest, or the platform businesses of the Filinvest Group. And I think if you ask somebody out there, when you say Filinvest, they will almost always associate that with real estate. Okay, we have been here for like quite some time already, and the longevity of the Filinvest Group can actually be probably attributed to some principles of sustainability that had been in practice for many, many years, and we just haven't really articulated that, no? But, and I will share with you some of the features that we already, in our sustainability framework, it's actually not something new that we are doing, it's things that we have been doing already. No, but we want to enhance them, strengthen that practice. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is our idea of sustainability. It's actually a combination of corporate social investments, or otherwise known as philanthropy. We have been doing that, and the family of the Gutianon family has been quite committed to investing, especially in education for society. Especially in young people, and in far-off places where the economic growth of the region is not, the pace is not as well as here in Metro Manila. I'm talking about the areas of Mindanao where the economic growth has been lagging. Okay, the family has been invested in that, but we are also doing not just corporate social investments, but actual ESG practice, which has been discussed by our previous speaker, where we apply best practices in environmental, social, and governance aspects of running a business. It's doing things the right way, and it makes business sense to do so. But I think for me, the biggest story here of Filinvest across the years is the shared value proposition that we have been developing and delivering through the decades. The vision of our founders was to help Filipinos achieve their dreams. And you know what our collective dreams are as Filipinos? I want to have a home. I want to be financially independent, etc., etc. So these are the where we are in the businesses. In the previous slides, you will see that probably all of them actually are shared value businesses. We are here to help the Philippines in the nation building of the country and help achieve the Filipino dream. And so three three items here: corporate social investments, which is philanthropy; ESG practice, which is doing things the right way, and it makes business sense because we have cost reduction and all that. But the third one is shared value, which is using the business itself to address the needs of Filipinos while generating returns. Okay, because at the end of the day, we are still businesses. And what focus areas did we identify in our sustainability framework? The first one is we want to be green. Every other company says that, a commitment to the environment, because the environment itself gives us ecosystem services that support our businesses. Okay? If we don't take care of the environment, we may have no business at all. A good example for us is hospitality. We have, those nice resorts in Boracay and Mactan, but if you don't take care of the environment there, then the guests won't come, right? So being green means it's a reciprocal, it's a relationship based on reciprocity. We take care of the environment takes care of us, okay? It's a bigger motivation rather than just compliance, which is just the bare minimum, right? The other commitment that we have is to become inclusive. And in the Filinvest Group, we have been trying to serve the unserved and the underserved for quite some time. Our East-West Bank is actually retail-centric, meaning we serve the consumer needs, the consumer retail segment for home loans, auto loans, and we actually have quite a big chunk of customers who are teachers. We are also in the real estate business. We have affordable housing. Out of the 5 brands of our Filinvest Land, the bottom two, Futura and Pabahay, are affordable housing products. And we also are serving the planters, the sugarcane planters in Mindanao. And in our power business, we have been quite instrumental in getting rid of that severe power crisis in the island of Mindanao that has been plaguing it for the last 10 years. Okay, so we go where we are needed. Basically, that's what we have. And the other angle that we want to be strong in is resilience. Most sustainability frameworks in the past do not mention anything about resilience. But let's face it, in the past, people would ask, oh, what's your carbon footprint target? But in reality, as Filipinos, our bigger concern regarding climate change is not how to reduce our carbon footprint, although it does make sense, right? But more importantly, how are we going to adapt to climate change, which is already here? We have the likes of Ondoy, we have seen the likes of Yolanda, Odette, and we have to learn how to live with this kind of new normal. So resilience of our assets, resilience of our operations, and most especially the resilience of our own people is very important. Otherwise, your business could die. In the past 2 years have taught us that it's not just climate change that's going to give us the big disruptions to business. The COVID pandemic was a big black swan that hit all of us. And many businesses folded because of that, not being ready to adapt quickly to such situation. So resilience is not just also for disruption, but also being able to see the potential coming from risk events. We can actually recognize opportunities where we could have a business and maybe we can thrive out of that. Okay, so those 3 items, being green, being inclusive, being resilient, is what's now the DNA of the sustainability philosophy of Filinvest. And PhilREIT, our offices, are aligning with that philosophy. For the next slide, I think everybody in the room already knows that PhilREIT was the first sustainability-themed REIT in the Philippines when we launched it in 2021. And when the assets were infused into that REIT portfolio, those assets already had those features of ESG, most especially on the environment side. We have energy efficiency built into those assets. We have water efficiency and conservation built into those assets. One of the big features that we have here, which is quite unique, is that we have a district cooling system, a centralized air conditioning system at the back of Northgate Cyberzone, and that was developed with our JV partner ENGIE. That's actually what, more than 5 years ago, long before the sustainability framework was articulated. We have been doing it. Why? Because it makes business sense, if not environmental sense. Okay. Other features that we have are, well, mobility. My colleague Don, who's going to be in the next, who's going to speak in the next, well, it's a video, but he's going to explain more of the features of Filinvest City and the sustainability features here, which of the offices here in Northgate Cyberzone are also enjoying. Among those are our 360 Eco Loop. We have a fleet of e-jeepneys going around, and other features. One other thing that I would like to, I'm quite proud to say, is that alluding to the net zero discussion of our previous speaker, PhilREIT is actually quite conscious of our carbon footprint. No? We have a two-pronged approach here, which is energy efficiency, as evidenced by our green building certifications already. Okay, but we are also active in trying to get hold of as much renewables as we can to supply to our locators and our tenants. And they have been asking for it too, because they have their own sustainability commitments. Okay. We are working on some other aspects, such as circular economy. Our hazardous wastes here are actually not disposed of through a contractor, but through a partnership with the Bantay Kalikasan of ABS-CBN Foundation. Okay? It does make business sense because you get tax credits rather than just paying a contractor to dispose of hazardous wastes. And we're also cooking up some other solid waste managed scheme here in collaboration with our other brothers and sisters in the Filinvest group here in Filinvest City. We want a unified solid waste management scheme here. Okay, so I won't dwell too much on all of these features because they will be mentioned by the subsequent speakers as well. But let me just proceed to the next slide. Okay. The previous speaker mentioned those green building certifications, and we are proud to say that we have some LEED Gold certifications already for some of our buildings here, the building beside us. Okay, and we also in recent weeks were able to get an EDGE certification for some of our pre-existing buildings. That's Vector 1 and 2. The LEED Gold is there at Vector 3 and Axis 1, and WELL pre-certification for Axis 2. We got 2 EDGE certifications right now, but they are coming in quick succession. By May, I think we're going to have like 6. So we're going to celebrate in May. So we said, okay, we got 2 already. Let's not celebrate yet. Let's just get them all, and then we'll celebrate big time. Okay. And the EDGE is the one for the pre-existing buildings. And our goal is to have all of the buildings here to be certified. Okay? What's the importance of certification? We already have these things in place. We are already enjoying the benefits. But what's the point in having this piece of paper? It's for credibility. When you have a third party reviewing what you claim, then it's very easy for us to say with conviction, yes, we are actually doing it. This is authenticity that's very important here, okay? And it cannot be coming from us alone. It has to be verified by other parties to tell the world, hey, look, what they're claiming is correct. Okay, and the last slide that I have right now is we're into celebrations anyways, so next slide, please. Yeah, we have, as I mentioned, we were the first sustainability themed REIT, no? And we also got this these awards here from the Real Estate Asia Awards on Office Development of the Year. We also have the back-to-back Circle of Excellence for Sustainability Company of the Year from the Asia CEO Awards. And recently the FIABCHI Award also, the Gold Award for Office Development of the Year and the Sustainable Development of the Year Silver. But awards are awards. You know, it's nice to celebrate them. These are other people recognizing us. But I think the most important recognition that we can get is from our customers themselves. Our tenants, we always talk to them. We have a dialogue. We ask them what they need. And they understand what our sustainability framework is, our sustainability commitment. And guess what? They also have one as well. And this constant exchange between us is actually a manifestation that this sustainability thing is a journey, is a shared journey between Filinvest and our tenants. We are actually, FilREIT is an enabler for our tenants. It is them who have their own sustainability goals, and it's our job to respond to those needs, because as our previous speaker said, if we don't do this, we might lose them. Okay? So again, this is a shared journey, and we hope that this is not just for reputational purposes. There is a business case to doing ESG work, and if we want to allude to a higher meaning to our lives, this is the right thing to do for us, because it's not just for ourselves, it's not just for business right now, it's for the future, it's for our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. We are with you in Filinvest being green, being inclusive, being resilient, and part of the sustainability journey. Our third speaker is Don Ubaldo. He is the first Vice President for Townships of Filinvest, a subsidiary of Filinvest Development Corporation. He led the planning and implementation of Filinvest City's master plan and was also instrumental in the development of other Filinvest mixed-use townships, including City de Mare in Cebu, Filinvest Mimosa in Leisure City in Pampanga, and Filinvest New Clark City in Tarlac. He unfortunately won't be able to join us here at Filinvest or in Zoom, but he sent a video recorded presentation. Let's watch this.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking time to be part of today's webinar. In case you're joining us virtually from your offices, I do hope we could invite you to visit us here in Filinvest City soon. First off, I'd like to thank FilREIT and Colliers for inviting us to join this event. We're very happy to be part of today's discussion with industry experts who share the same values. Partners who see that beyond altruism, there's a lot of business sense behind sustainability. Whether or not you're part of the real estate industry, I'm sure you might have heard of the saying that property is all about location, location, location. I think this will always hold true. Location is still the foremost consideration in choosing where you'll set up your business. But these days, it's no longer just about having an address that's accessible or transit-oriented per se. The COVID-19 pandemic has given rise to a more discerning breed of office occupiers who now see work from home as a viable solution and who also value wellness at the workplace. For a business to remain competitive, it has to become imperative to choose an address that contributes positively to business resilience, attracts top talent, and boosts employees' job longevity. Research shows that designing and building with sustainability in mind indeed helps in future-proofing homes and offices. And this is actually in line with our beliefs here in Filinvest. Filinvest City has been in existence for close to 3 decades already. But even before the market recognized the value of sustainability and green building certification, Filinvest City was already designed to be nature-inspired and future-centric. We have always believed that looking out for the environment is our investment in the future. since our well-being is innately tied to our connection to nature. We are also proud to have taken the extra mile by subjecting ourselves to the rigor sustainability certifications because we believe that what gets monitored and measured gets done. Filinvest City is the only township in the country and one of the largest in Southeast Asia that's gold certified under the LEED Neighborhood Development Program. We've also received a 3-star rating for the pilot version of Verde Districts by PhilGBC, making us the only CBD in the Philippines to be dual certified. So how does sustainability make for a better address? Allow me to share 3 principles we've followed that benefit our community. The first is our smart urban design that enables connectivity and inclusive mobility. As part of our vision of creating a complete self-contained township for Filinvest City, we went against the norm at the time of concentrating all activities in just one singular city center. Instead, we created several smaller but complete human-scale micro-districts and seeded this with city essentials to serve communities within immediate walkable distances, within a 15 to 20-minute walk or bike ride. Residential options for different market segments, job opportunities for MNCs, local enterprises, and BPOs, shopping, dining, and recreation options, or institutional facilities that take care of all your educational, wellness, and worship needs. All this create a vibrant live, work, play, and thrive lifestyle for everyone. Our buildings and roads are also designed and built for people. Our human-scale approach to planning and zoning make our citizens' experience of the township environs pleasant, rather than overwhelming, as sometimes we experience in other CBDs, full to the brim with tall buildings. A good example of our approach is the campus-like experience one would have working at Northgate Cyberzone, our premier 18-hectare IT park here in Filinvest City. Moving around the city is easy and convenient. Our streets, as well as an integrated network of pedestrian-friendly landscape pathways, are designed to encourage walking and cycling. Mobility, made convenient and pleasant, reduces reliance on car travel and fuel consumption, while encouraging healthy living. And for all locations wherein commute is necessary, we have an electric-powered PUV system in place. Here in FC, sustainable and inclusive in-city mobility also gives you efficiency, giving you more time to spend on what matters the most. Next is our nature-inspired environs which nurture wellness. At the onset of planning for Filinvest City, we sought to integrate the area's natural environs in the city's design. Respecting the natural terrain allowed us to do city development that's less invasive. But more importantly, it created memorable features that further define Filinvest City's character as a garden city. The Festival Mall River Park and Water Garden are scenic spots that take advantage of how we've built the mall around the Alabang Kupang Creek. We're also the only CBD that's been able to consciously maintain a 9-kilometer bike trail while we face future development as our township grows. These unique destinations create distinct sense of place for Filinvest City, giving our community more reasons to enjoy the outdoors. This appreciation for the environment is a key component of our township DNA. We believe that physical and visual access to greens and open spaces result to improve health through fresh air, exercise, and recreation. I think we will all agree that at the height of the pandemic, our limited mobility emphasized how open space and breathing room, even if this were just as simple as views and visual amenities, were so important for both our homes and workspaces. Our predecessors in Filinvest have long recognized this, So even at the early stages of the township's development, there was deliberate effort to create a network of interconnected parks and open spaces, and to ensure that all our roads are tree-lined. With this, Filinvest City's flora and fauna continue to flourish as the city works to conserve its natural habitat. In total, there are 67 exotic, 51 native but endemic, and 2 Philippine endemic plant species that thrive here. Filinvest City also serves as a breeding ground and haven to many birds. But even while we already offer abundant open spaces, in the recent years, our management and our team have sought to enhance the township's walkability and provide more parks and spaces for convergence by revisiting our master plan. In the process, we actually reduced the width of one of our city's major roads to create Spectrum Linear Park, a tree-lined park dotted with art installations that spans the northern and southern ends of the township. Spectrum Linear Park is part of our interconnected greenway system, making it easy for our citizens to traverse the township. Another part of our greenway is our Central Park, which we opened last year. This sprawls with almost a hectare in size and has become a go-to venue for our community events. It was teeming with activity when we had our concerts at Food Bazaar last Christmas. But even if you visit on a regular afternoon, you would find families hanging out there or joggers and cyclists doing their workouts. The park system also includes our Festival Mall River Park and Water Garden, which I mentioned earlier, plus our planned Creekside Park, a 2.2-kilometer riverside pedestrian and bike path crossing from the northeast to the southwest part of the city. You would normally expect developers to be focused on making their spaces more efficient. And perhaps what we've been doing here in Filinvest City seems counterintuitive to this, because we've gone out of our way to respect natural terrain and went as far as providing more open spaces. But seeing how our locators have appreciated our surroundings reassures us that indeed this respect for nature and the environment is key to our community's well-being. Lastly, but not the least, is the green technology that matters. On the technology side, once we grew the city to significant scale, we started embarking on relevant sustainability solutions to provide better quality of living, efficiencies, and cost savings. 5 years ago, we partnered with ENGIE to build the country's largest district cooling system in Northgate Cyberzone, which is the third largest IT park in Metro Manila. District cooling is basically a more efficient and sustainable way of providing building air conditioning. As a result, our offices connected to the DCS have been enjoying as much as 40% energy cost savings. Aside from this, our office designs have become more efficient, with building GFA freed up for other value-adding uses. Filinvest ENGIE Renewable Energy Enterprise Inc. or FREE, a joint venture company of FDC Utilities Inc., the power utility arm of Filinvest Development Corporation, and ENGIE Services Philippines, kicked off its first project, a 2.8 megawatt solar rooftop solution at Festival Mall. The intelligent system will supply about 28% of the mall's peak demand and save close to 41,000 tons of carbon dioxide. This is equivalent to removing approximately 9,000 cars off the roads of Metro Manila. Our sewage treatment plant also allows Filinvest City to recycle its effluent and use this for landscape irrigation, therefore minimizing use of potable water. As you can see from the examples that I've just given, investing in sustainability also redounds to operational efficiencies and cost savings. This ultimately benefit our locators and tenants who enjoy relatively lower operating expenses and estate dues. We are very proud of our work that we do in Filinvest City. And we're confident that our city's inherent design, anchored on sustainable development, will continue to help our locators and our community. We believe that a sustainable address is the first step to building an environmentally conscious home or office. And I hope that in the near future, we could partner with you in your sustainability journey. Thank you very much and have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, Don. Definitely, birds are very good indicators of how healthy an environment is, and Filinvest Alabang as a bird sanctuary is a testament of how healthy the environment here in Alabang. And for our next speaker, let us welcome Sebastian Walker. He is the Head of Business Development for Mixed Use and Real Estate at ENGIE South East Asia, a division of ENGIE, which is one of the world's largest independent power producers and a leading provider of energy-efficient services and low-carbon infrastructure. Sebastian partners with large corporations like the Filinvest Group, businesses and local governments to assist them in meeting their energy needs with affordable, reliable, and sustainable solution. Please welcome on Zoom Sebastian Walker. Hi, Sebastian.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much. First, I would like to thank Colliers and Filinvest for inviting us to this really interesting talk. Unfortunately, I couldn't join live, but I'm happy to be on Zoom to talk to you. So I'll start with giving you a bit of information on where I speak from, because you might not be all familiar with ENGIE. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So ENGIE is a major global historical energy player that totally shifted 8 or 7 years ago with a total repurpose of the company and shifted from carbonized solution to sustainability. And today, our purpose is really to accelerate the energy transition toward a carbon neutral economy. We basically help our clients plan their transition, we take care of the implementation, we finance it, and in the end, we fully de-risk their decarbonization journey. ENGIE is more than 100,000 people all over the world working towards this goal, and we materialize this commitment with the goal to be net zero by 2045. In Southeast Asia, next slide, our core geographic focus, if we can go to the next slide, please. Our core geographic focus is on Singapore, Malaysia, and of course the Philippines. And we have a growing team of 2,000 people. And our strategic focus is really to provide lesser energy, greener energy at scale through 3 key verticals: real estate, industry, and data center. And I'm in charge of the real estate vertical. So coming back to our topic, if you can go to the next slide, please. There is an urgent call to action today, and we can no longer afford to not look at the building sector sustainability. Real estate is a key contributor to climate change, and with around 35 to 40% of CO2 emissions in the region. And this trend is unfortunately moving upward, pushed by growing urbanization and growing development, with more people having access to air conditioning. And the International Energy Agency already tells us that the amount of energy needed for space cooling will grow to around 300 terawatt hour in 2040 from 75 in 2017. So that's a big increase. And on the other side, we are confronted with a climate crisis that is already here. And as the UN Secretary said a few weeks ago, the climate time bomb is ticking. It's actually already here. It's posing a threat on our way of living, but also on our assets, on real estate assets, including on hospitality, as it was said before. To fight it, there are a lot of commitments that are ongoing from government, but also from the private sector. And today, around 40% of the occupiers in real estate sector have already committed to net zero targets. So sustainability is no longer an option; it's a necessity. It's called for by government, investors, and tenants. But there are a few challenges in this transition, and the two main challenges that we see on the energy side of the transition is, of course, first a kind of lack of expertise as energy efficiency, reducing the demand, greening our supply, really require an increased level of complexity to really get most value of the transition. The topic becomes multi-assets, multi-technologies, multi-utilities, and we have to look at the problems with a really comprehensive and holistic vision. It really requires finesse and expertise. And today, most businesses have experts who can run day-to-day activities, but they may lack the knowledge to implement really complex energy solutions over the long term. And the other major challenge is the financial constraint. This transition can require upfront capex with long ROI, and we've seen, especially in the last years with the pandemic, businesses wanting to prioritize the allocation of their resources to their day-to-day business, to really running their core business. And actually, it's true that their resources are better allocated, more efficient when they are directed to their core business. So our vision to overcome these challenges, if we can go to the next slide, is really to that the key to this transition is to partner with energy experts, with energy services company, and those partners, we can rely on them when there are energy experts that understand the challenges that you are facing. They understand your operations, how to optimize them. They are able to leverage on existing solutions that are mature and proven, but also to stay at the forefront of innovation. And those experts will be able to design, to build, to operate the equipment while really providing the best performance and the best reliability that the real estate asset needs. We think those partners must have financing capabilities. They need long-term stability, and you need a partner that will not let you down, and that will be able to shoulder the transition, to bear the risk for it. Those partners should be able to deliver tailor-made solutions. As I said before, optimization requires finesse, requires to further away from standardization. And on our side, we really believe in a brand agnostic approach. That's the best way to have a tailored and efficient solution. The commitment is oriented towards performance and not towards, if I simplify, maximizing the recourse to a given catalog. And I think it's really important to make your partners trusted partners, long-term partners, because long-term vision is a key in this transition, and they need to focus on deliver quality, and you need a real partnership to align on the goals that you have with your supplier. And finally, we said the transition is a complex topic, and the global vision is important. Having a holistic approach, a holistic understanding of the energy sector really leads to higher value. Next slide. So indeed, integrating utilities will generate value. If I take some example, integrating the airside operation of a building with the control and the operation of the plant side, adding a digital layer to control the demand and supply accurately within a building will really improve the value that we get on it. And if we can leverage solar, for example, or link it with other usages like green mobility, we are not only managing energy at the equipment level, but we are shifting to managing energy at the building level, and that's where we generate most value. And in our vision, we really believe that the energy as a service model is a good way to overcome the challenges that we mentioned earlier. Because with energy as a service model, you no longer invest and procure the equipment, replace them, bear unplanned costs for breakdowns, have an O&M contractor, etc. In this model, the client will pay fixed or energy fee to the energy service provider, and this provider will manage and provide the outcome, the final service. And he will take on his scope the financing, the design, the operation and maintenance, the integration with other solutions, and leverage on digital. And the provider ends up being responsible for providing the service. It's outcome-based, while the client benefits from predictable energy cost, predictable service cost, and reduced risk. The service provider on this side will leverage on energy efficiency to repay his investment over the long term, and will guarantee performance, quality, reliability. That's, we believe, the model that derives maximum value for the client. If we can go to the next slide. So I said it, on new equipment will require upfront capex. Efficiency actually can come at a premium in terms of upfront cost, but you recover over the long term. So there might be a significant obstacle to shift from old to efficient equipment if this cost has to be shouldered by the real estate company. And with energy as a service, as it is clear that energy efficiency brings life cycle cost savings, the service provider, will take over and bear this capex. And on your side, the client can allocate this capex, allocate this financial capacity to his core business and generate more value out of it. Of course, it allows to optimize utility bills and to reduce the utility cost, especially in a world where the electricity costs are skyrocketing. We really see this value increasing and increasing. As it was mentioned by a previous panelist, if we take the example of our district cooling for Filinvest, that generates around 40% savings for the connected buildings. It reduces the risk associated to the utilities, because all liabilities will be transferred to the supplier, and on the client side, you have visibility on your cash flow. And finally, it's a flexible business model that can be adapted to your need. But one of the really interesting values, I think, is also that it's in an integrated model that simplifies the process and externalizes a lot of risk. And this integrated model brings full alignment between the incentives of the supplier and the objectives of the client. Indeed, since the contract is outcome-based, so based on what the client needs, the supplier will take responsibility and will be focused toward delivering. So during design, value engineering will be really important and used to design fit for purpose with no unnecessary buffers that will increase capex and affect performance over the long term. Construction will be done at best cost while making sure that quality is delivered, safety is ensured, with really a long-term approach. And operation and maintenance also will work with a long-term vision of having the asset running at best performance in good condition for as long as possible. So this long-term vision with design, construction, O&M focused toward delivering performance and reliability at the best cost, that's what we see in energy as a service model, and it being useful for the transition. If we can go to the next slide. So beyond these direct economic, technical advantages, there is a broader perspective on sustainability. It's really becoming a key element of real estate valuation. So as we see on lower operational costs, you lower the carbon emissions, so that can be valued either directly if you offset your carbon emissions, but also if you assume that in your decision process. But it's also making sure that you're building future-proofing regulation that are becoming more stringent, regulations that are evolving. With green buildings, your asset will have a longer, will be up to date, if I may, for a longer period. We also see that green building certifications, etc., are driving higher occupancy rates, higher rates, and higher tenant retention, and overall, indeed, higher value of the assets. Today, in the Philippines, according to different studies, the rent premium between green buildings and non-green buildings is typically around 2 to 23%. So there is real value around sustainability. And beyond that, the real question, but I will let Colliers maybe answer that kind of question, is maybe the buildings that are not being green and not oriented towards sustainability will suffer progressively from a brown discount and not even a green premium. So to conclude, I wanted to say a couple words of our partnership with Filinvest Development, which we are really proud of, because it's a really good example of how we can work together with real estate actors. So we actively seek scale through this strategic partnership. We leverage on Filinvest portfolio, on their local presence, on local market reach, and on the other side, Filinvest is leveraging on ENGIE's global expertise to promote their sustainability agenda. It started with the district cooling that we talked about already a bit more than 5 years ago, that is existing and biggest DCS district cooling in the Philippines. But we went further by creating some joint ventures on solar energy development and operation and maintenance. And we are really happy to work together to leverage our common capabilities and to join our forces to build on the environmental, but also, as Mark said, which is really important, on the business opportunity that sustainability represents. So finally, we believe that greening real estate is now a necessity. Everything is pushing in that sense, the climate crisis, the government, the investors, the tenants, and by working with the right partners, by leveraging on the appropriate business models such as energy as a service, greening real estate is also actually a fantastic business opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian. We are with you. The growing interest in sustainability and environmental stewardship should lead to a higher demand for green buildings and green communities. I'm now seeing Zoom questions coming from our head of marketing, Rodel. I'm sure our audience here have a lot of questions as well. So let me invite Andrew Lau to be back on screen, and Sebastian Walker, Mark Mulingbayan to join me here. And Colliers Director, Head for Research, Joey Bondoc, will be my co-moderator. But before we start, let me first introduce our panelist, the Head of Business Development of Meralco. She is an expert who in the past decade focused on renewable energy and business development in the energy industry. She has extensive experience in establishing new business lines and projects that involve solar, wind, geothermal, retail electricity services, and energy efficiency. Please welcome Ms. Trini Defensor. Our sofa is so big for social distancing. No, yeah, Trini has been a good friend ever since I've known her to be really passionate on green energy. So this topic was timely. So we took the time. Thank you for joining us, Chins.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Maybe you can share your experience on why you devoted your whole career on green energy specifically.
Well, actually, my journey with energy and environment started a decade ago. I actually started out working in telco, but I wanted to have a bit more of a connection with what I was doing. So for me, I had always been an environmentalist. Back in, I don't know what prompted it, but even when I was a young child, I would always prompt my parents not to throw things out the window of the car. And this was, back in the, I won't say anymore when, but back in the day when it was not part of the discourse yet. And so when I was thinking of what are the key drivers, it was really energy that undergirds a lot of what we do in our day-to-day life. And so I decided to go for further studies, specifically in energy and environment. And that's where I started to learn about climate change accounting. We also talked about things like externalities, which are not factored into how we account for all of the different returns and business investments. And I think this is now what we start to see coming out in the ESG discussion. There's a framework that's being put in place to specifically really address these lapses that were previously not part of the discussion before.
And then, since I know you've also been going around the Philippines, especially since the Philippines is very high risk in climate change, maybe you can share some of the works that you've been doing addressing how the Philippines can be more resilient. And Filinvest, one of their core values is resiliency.
Sure. So in terms of my experience with energy, it actually started all the way down from what we call the bottom of the pyramid. And you recall that we went on a hike for light about 10 years ago. And
Actually, and I hiked Mount Pulag because a friend of ours was gonna propose in Mount Pulag. Yeah, but we also did a solar donation.
Yes, yes. So I think one of the things also that maybe is not highlighted in these kinds of discussions is in the Philippines, we still have about 12 million Filipinos that don't have any access to electricity. And it really has a lot to do with our geography because we have mountainous regions, we have island communities where the extension of that last mile, as we call it, that connection, that cabling, that grid establishment in that area becomes prohibitively expensive. So there are ways as well for us to utilize green energy in these areas that actually has many different dimensions of benefits for the people in the community. Aside from, of course, giving them now a more reliable source of electricity, it also has a lot of health benefits as well because if you think about what these island communities were previously using, they would use kerosene lamps, they would use candles. There's a very high risk, number one, of burns and fires at home. And then also the inhalation from the smoke is something that over time has a very drastic effect on their overall health. So through the work that I had done before, we had, and that hike for light that we did many years back, we would actually distribute solar lanterns, we would install solar panels on schools and communities. And I'm happy to say that this is something that Meralco today also continues to do through One Meralco Foundation. We've identified communities and areas where it's difficult even within our own franchise area to connect or to extend that connection. And these schools are now able to benefit from the installation of solar panels, which then gives the teachers a safer way to also continue their educational requirements even at night, and even also promotes the safety of the community. Because when you think about living in darkness, there are a lot of risks as well that are associated with that. So even at the bottom of the community, that's one of the things that we would like actually to be able to promote in Meralco, even outside of our own franchise area. Because our own sustainability agenda, we have what we call the 4 Ps. Of course, power being in Meralco, then we have planet, people, and prosperity. And so addressing both people and prosperity also requires that we try to find ways to connect people within and without outside of our franchise area to be able to ensure that there's this energy equity. And today there are still 12 million Filipinos out there that are still finding, trying to see how they can find themselves with more access to energy, and which help to contribute as well to their own development.
I think with all these sustainability initiatives, CSRs of company, definitely they can be part of this 12 million still Filipinos that need access to energy. My co-moderator and partner,
Yes,
Sir
Chris.
Joey.
We received a few questions from the audience. The first one is for Mark. Is there an existing framework already for the implementation of these green initiatives for property developers? And could you expound on that framework?
Work-wise, there's actually a sustainability standards, which is well known as GRI, but it's really encompassing all types of companies. And that's the gold standard for sustainability reporting. This GRI has been there for a decade or so. Lately, there has been there's a new type of guidance that came out, which is the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, which is going to merge with something else because we have a lot of, if LEED, WELL, Verde, and that. For sustainability, we have GRI, we have SASB, we have IIRC, and all the alphabet soup of frameworks. And the good thing with SASB is it is industry specific, and they have one they have a guidance on real estate and construction. But at the end of it all, whatever framework one adopts, it always has to boil down to materiality, meaning what is important to that company, what is important to the stakeholders of that company, that is what you work on and report on. So these are just guidance mostly, but it gets you in the right direction. So I think SASB for real estate and construction, that would be a good framework to start with. But having said that, these green building certifications actually can lead you in that direction because they have these common parameters that they deal with, like energy efficiency, water, material, or embodied energy in materials, and all that. So whatever it is, there's quite a lot of frameworks, but the challenge is for the company to identify what is material, really. And that's how it starts. Whatever framework you choose, always begin with materiality. What is relevant? What is impactful? What is meaningful to you and your stakeholders?
Okay, and picking up from that framework, and I also want to ask my colleague here, Marie Chris, who heads our landlord representation team, how do you communicate, all these ESG goals, initiatives to a younger workforce? You have these millennial employees housed within these LEED certified, green certified office buildings across Metro Manila. So I'm curious, how do you communicate these ESG goals to these young workers?
It's easier than you think because this younger generation, they're more attuned to the sustainability stuff. Well, in the classical sense, corporations would publish their own formal sustainability reports, post them on the website or print it out. But company has to be creative nowadays in reaching out and getting the message across. Social media is actually something that we should all be considering. But of course, the reality here is the attention span is quite short, right? So your sustainability report is a big document that has everything in it. As not everybody reads cover to cover. So the challenge now, especially for the young generation, is be very creative with the messaging, how the message is developed, how short it will be, and present that as a series, and use social media because I think that's how people get information nowadays rather than reading long books, right?
Just to add on to Mark, most of the companies were sharing with us that for new hires, the millennials, and the younger generation would really put a lot of premium on well-being, and having a building well certified assures them that the building is built towards really not only physical well-being but even to mind well-being that will ensure them of a
and
healthy well-being
maybe
throughout their stay with this company. So that's why companies, occupiers is not anymore a nice to have when in their building scorecard. It's already a must-have to be able to attract this newer, younger generation.
Yeah, it's an expectation. Beyond just communicating it, I think the more impactful way of making them understand is by getting them involved. Involved means sometimes you go into focus group discussions. Sometimes you provide experiences to them. Like, this is not for offices, but for other companies. They would bring their employees and some of their stakeholders to a tree planting event, for example. And sometimes in my past life, I would even invite the children of those stakeholders because the kids resonate with the message better than the parents. No? So we have to be creative, and there's a lot of opportunities out there on how to do that.
Maybe Chins can also share how you think we can communicate the ESG benefits to the younger generation.
I agree very much actually with Mark because I have an 8-year-old, and even today they're discussing sustainability, and their project in school is they have to invent something that would be environmentally friendly. So he started asking me about how can we try to utilize renewable energy for planes and for flying. So, you know, I think there's this consciousness that's already there. They see it all around them, and they're very interconnected as well. So I agree that I think the utilization of social media, in fact, it's already something that I see being part of their decision-making process, even when they select the products that they will consume. So I think when you go to the supermarket today versus when, you know, maybe in the 90s or in the early 2000s, there's now more consciousness of them to see where the ingredients came from or if it's made from recycled material. So there has to be that conscious effort also to make yourself present and to communicate because this is already at the top of their priority list.
Circling back to Mark, can you identify buildings that are LEED, WELL, green certified, and where are these buildings situated?
Here in
Metro
Filinvest?
Manila? Yeah.
Well, in Filinvest, I only speak in behalf of Filinvest, right? Here in Northeast Cyber Zone, the building beside us, Access Towers, they have LEED certifications. Vector 3 also has that. Vector 1 and 2 just got their EDGE certification lately, and even this building we are in now is lined up to receive EDGE certification before May. When I was mentioning in my talk before, you know, we are just waiting for all of those EDGE certificates to come in so that we can have one big party. This building will be one of those. Yeah, and our goal is really to have the buildings all certified.
Zoe, we have a question from the Zoom participant for Andrew Lau. There are 100+ rating systems around the globe. How do you know which best serves the local conditions and boundaries of the project development and local communities? Do projects really deliver the promises and how they were compared on national and local level performances? Andrew?
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for the question. So I think there are too many certification programs around the world. We all come down to the benefits and the value creation that we can get out of it. So in some of the cities, we mostly advise clients to go for the international one, like LEED and WELL that we are talking about today, mainly because this is the requirement and demand for a lot of MNC. I used to advise a lot of MNC on their sustainability and ESG program, and we make it mandatory for them to only lease those buildings with LEED Gold and above and WELL Silver and above certified building because of the corporate certification requirements. So those are the value can be created for the landlord. But I think from a valuation perspective, which is where our Colliers team is working on right now, we look at the building from a different angle. So certification is one thing. Definitely international certification is more like recognized. But at the same time, we also look at the overall E and SNG program. Going back to the question about developers like a framework, I think we will refer to GRAPS or GRASP, sometimes we call it, and also TCFD and alignment with UN SDG. So those are the three elements that we look at to make sure the building is climate resilience, at the same time has a more robust ESG program in place. So some of the buildings are subject to a more like a physical climate risk. So those are the buildings where the value will take a big discount. So at the end of the day, I think the return on investment is the most important for our investors' clients, where the building is valued differently will actually impact their ability to finance, their cash flow, and also their future return. So I think those are the important elements that we really need to look at. And this is go beyond the just building certification, I think, but at the end of the day, it's very important to have a robust program in place and achieving those milestones accordingly. So let's say if we have a 25% reduction target in 2 years' time, we really need to disclose the carbon emission data and show that we have done that. So those are, I think, the key points to achieve a more like a value creation ESG program.
Thanks, Andrew. This is a question for Sebastian. ESG initiatives require quantifiable data and the measurement to substantiate the outcomes. What strategies do you advise your clients to put in place so that they can measure the outcomes of their ESG strategies?
Sorry, what's the question for me?
For Sebastian.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, we couldn't hear the question.
Okay, I'll repeat the question. ESG initiatives require quantifiable data and the measurement to substantiate the outcomes. What strategies do you advise your clients to put in place so they can measure the outcomes of their ESG strategies?
Indeed, no, it's a real topic. I hope you can hear me correctly. It's important to have data and measurable data, KPIs, to really initiate the transition, to align on the objective and to generate actions from those KPI. Those KPI can be energy usage intensity, total energy used. Some companies use CO2 per square meters. I mean, each player can define his own KPIs and share them. And then, of course, measurement is a key. That requires some equipment. If we talk about energy, installing smart meters, having a building management system that centralizes all this data. In any case, what I believe is that today digital infrastructure is absolutely necessary to unlock the maximum efficiency. So around this system, you will get the necessary data. And on top of this, it can be used and leveraged to communicate around the results, both internally but also externally to investors and to tenants, and generate additional value from it.
Thanks, Sebastian. This is for Chini and Mark. One of the often cited issues on ESG is transparency, not only in financial disclosures, but also in sharing how companies undertake their ESG initiatives. So what's being done to address this, the issue on transparency?
I think we're starting to see, and it was touched upon in the presentation earlier, that companies are really putting a lot of effort into their sustainability reporting. So aside from their annual report, it's now become standard for them to also release a sustainability report alongside that. So I think that is one way that companies are able to clearly lay out their plans and also to show what they've been able to achieve in terms of their ESG. And I think to add also to what Sebastian mentioned, it's good to have data and to be able to measure the goals and the initiatives that you have set forth. And I think we're in a technological space now where it's becoming easier to do that, because we're seeing now the improvements in IoT. It's becoming also more affordable for people to be able to put in devices that would help them to measure their energy consumption and then to benchmark this and to see if they're able to, if the steps that they've taken or some of their initiatives have actually been able to help reduce this. Same with foot traffic, same also with other measurable factors relating to overall wellness and to well-being of their employees and of course the business itself.
Mike?
Just to add to that, sustainability reporting used to be voluntary, but now we have to thank the Securities and Exchange Commission for requiring it since 2019 for publicly listed companies to release their sustainability reports. And based on the SEC, like 2 days ago, I think we have something like a compliance rate of 93%. So A lot of companies already are publishing sustainability reports. For me, that's one step towards transparency, having a report. But the next step is figuring out whether those reports are actually true. So, and this is where verification, third-party verification comes in. Authenticity, di ba? So there's it might become part of the rules eventually that you don't just publish a report. You have to get a third party to verify how you generate your data, how if those data sets are not rigged, because the biggest fear of sustainability practitioners nowadays and companies that have real sustainability programs is greenwashing, because some companies practice that. So the imperative now is not just to report, but to make sure that everything that you report is verified, so that you have the credibility when you publish that this is real. This is real. This is not data that's manipulated.
So authenticity and transparency are very important in
And with technology,
disclosing.
it makes it easier for companies or even citizens to be part of this sustainability journey, having all these advances in technology that we can capitalize on.
That's correct. I have a question for Andrew. For companies, especially real estate players who are new to this, what advice would you give them to get their ESG strategy going?
Hi again. Maybe I need to change a little bit of the audio system. So I think the first step we already just talked about is the data collection. What our clients usually do is conduct a ESG gap analysis to identify the opportunity and the gap between the current operation against the overarching framework, benchmarking from the best practice. So what are the quick fix, data collection mechanism, data gap, and also all these opportunities available to do carbon reduction, and also against the social topic and the governance project. So this will be the very first step for our clients if they are new to the journey. But this is actually the same process that we do for some client who has a few years in with the ESG journey, but they still have struggled to achieve what's the next step. And it is very important for the client to realize this is a lot of resistance from the people within the organization and outside. So the stakeholder engagement is very important. And a lot of time we do change management program for our client from corporate level all the way to building level to achieve this ESG focus, and also formulating strategies to achieve green leasing between the tenant and the landlord is also one way to get commitment from both sides to achieve their ESG targets in a more systematic manner. So I think green leasing may be one of the next topic.
Thanks so much, Andrew. This is for Chinny. The Department of Energy is pursuing a clean energy scenario setting, a target of 35% renewable energy share in the power generation mix by 2030 and more than 50%. Quite lofty. As somebody who works in the energy sector, are we on track to achieving this?
Well, I think that's an interesting question because we have a bit of ground to make up. And the reason I say that is because back in about 2000, 2005, we had a pretty good proportion of our energy mix which came from renewable energy. And that's really because the Philippines is blessed to have a lot of geothermal resources which we were able to develop in the 70s. And that is the only RE that can provide base load power. So we were able to get our energy mix almost to about 30% RE about a few decades ago. However, our economy, which is of course a good thing, but our energy demand and our economy started to grow, and it's very difficult now to keep pace with that. And so we found that we had to build coal plants in order to be able to keep up with the demand and with the consumption requirements. So as a result, our energy mix now has skewed more towards fossil fuels, and we lost a bit of that RE mix We're now maybe about 47% coal, and the RE has gone down to about 24%. But the good news is that we're now also in the space where we don't have to rely as much on these large-scale RE plants because there's so much momentum around the CNI end user type of RE facility. So we saw in the earlier presentation that there's a rooftop solar on Festival Mall. This is something that has become more and more popular because even the economics on the side of the end user are quite favorable today. It ends up resulting in savings for them. So we're starting to see that the RE take-up is really growing in what we call the distributed energy generation or behind the meter, where it is the end user who is now promoting it. But at the same time, there's also a lot of movement forward from the government because they also lifted the foreign ownership restrictions on RE, and there was a coal moratorium that was set in 2020. So it's good to see that on both ends of the scale, we're making good progress.
I agree. I think that trend is becoming
Especially for the younger ones, I think even for new couples building a home, they really try to incorporate having solar panels in their house. So it's really a consumer-driven decision as well on sustainability as not just a popular one, but really living the sustainable lifestyle, Joey.
solar panels at malls being installed right now, right? Another question. This one is for Mark. Data show that buildings are responsible for 39% of global energy-related carbon emissions, 28% from operational emissions, energy needed to heat, cool, and power them, and the remaining 11% from materials and construction. In the case of Filinvest Group, which strategies are in place to minimize the carbon footprint of your existing buildings?
I think I mentioned that in our strategy here is two-pronged. Number one, energy efficiency, meaning if you can use energy more wisely, go for that. Actually, what we did in Northgate Cyber Zone is we recently replaced all our lighting with LED. We also installed variable frequency drives for pumps and motors. So, and of course, in addition to the other energy efficiency designs that are built in in the building, and of course the district cooling system that we have, which saves up as much as up to 40% of energy and 20% water. So energy efficiency is the first thing to do. Do some housekeeping, make sure that you don't waste energy. The other one is actively pursuing electricity that comes from renewables. Fortunately, in Filinvest, we have a sister company called FDC Utilities. They have a retail electricity supply business where we are able to get some renewables through open access for our tenants here. So currently, 6 of the buildings are 100% renewable. Last year, the total consumption for renewable for Phil was around 26%. Oh, no, sorry, that's 2021, 26%. For 2022, that increased to 32%. And we want 100% one day. Actually, what's limiting us right now is the supply coming from the market, because other real estate companies are also asking for that. So there's a competition now for renewable because the tenants themselves, many of them are multinationals with their own sustainability targets, are asking for it. So there's currently a difficulty among us in the real estate sector to provide renewables to our clients because there's not much to go around, because the demand is growing, and we hope that the renewables development gains more traction, gets faster and faster as we get closer to 2050. So
Chinny, for in Meralco, are there more initiatives to really expand sources of renewable energy to be able to capture all these new requirements?
Yes, there's definitely a strong interest in renewable energy, but I think aside from that, and as a necessary complement to that, we're also looking into how can we try to mitigate some of the variability from renewable energy, because as a distribution utility, we also have to be mindful of the intermittency of renewable energy. And so the more that you start to see, as you mentioned, homeowners putting in solar on their rooftops, we have to be able now to find a way also to protect the assets and make sure that the grid reliability and stability is maintained. So this will require us to look more into energy storage, which I think is the next big step also in ensuring that RE is able to be well supported going forward.
Thanks, Shani. Joey, it's almost 4 o'clock. Rodel's giving me the signal. I think we need to have a session 2 for this ESG. A lot of questions still coming in, but lack of time, Joey. So thank you to our speakers, our panelists, Andrew Lau, Mark Mulingbayan, Don Ubaldo, Sebastian Walker, of course, Shani Defensor, for the insights and recommendation. We would like to once again thank our event partners, Filinvest REIT Corporation, BusinessWorld, British Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, ENGIE South East Asia for making this event possible. If you'd like to stay updated on the latest news and insights in the Philippine property sector, please visit Colliers.com. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And to know more about Filinvest REIT Corporation, a gracious host here at Filinvest REIT, please visit filinvestreit.com. Once again, on behalf of Colliers and Filinvest REIT, thank you for joining us today. And I hope that today's session has inspired us to do good, to live a sustainable lifestyle. I myself am looking forward to seeing tangible, significant, and really consequential changes in the real estate sector. Thank you for attending, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Joey.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris.